of racial incitement between blacks and Indians, and
Mhm.
the really tough time you guys have had in terms of just everything going down, the uprisings in Phoenix. How are you guys moving forward?
I think there are many different state organisms that have been mobilized in order to address the issue of racial tensions. I think it must be understood that this whole unrest or supposed attempted insurrection is not based on race. It was based on some political agenda which turned into looting, which now became a racial issue based on the fact that a particular race group or particular race groups, which supposedly are from minority areas, and that's just an assumption because in these areas we've got all different races living, which wanted to protect their communities at large. So the racial issue is something that's being pushed as an agenda, and I think by us speaking about it also pushes that as an agenda.
Okay, so let's not give it any traction.
100%.
But obviously, you are having to do a lot of, I should
Damage
imagine,
control.
yeah, absolutely. And then
Yes.
also damage control as far as supporting people who were rioted and looted and
Mhm.
supporting them going forward.
Yes. So when it came down to the issues of businesses being rioted and looted, I think it was very important for us to quickly come through this unrest and then normalize very quickly so that we can get back into the economy and then start moving forward. Or else it would have led us be prolonging this issue and further instigations of racial tension and those sorts of issues that would have come up. And ultimately, it would have led to something that we don't really want to start progressing our minds into thinking as to how far this could have gone. And I've always said that prevention can never be measured. What has been prevented, we would never ever be able to measure because it never occurred, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mm.
So with that being said, I'm saying it is where it is where we are. We now got to do postmortems of what has transpired, try and address how do we stop these things from happening moving forward, and what systems should we be putting in place to identify very quickly, and what would be the mobilization strategies from there moving forward.
Okay. Also, community in blue and the effectiveness of being organized.
Yes.
Do you want to respond to that?
No, I will. So with regard to the Community Policing Forum, it's basically a platform by which the community discusses its issues with police. However, there has been a launch, I think it was 2 years ago, and we were discussing it at national level and at provincial level, wherein we spoke about neighborhood watches and all of those different institutes that actively community police, meaning they go out and they stand off and they've got white lights and they're actively serving as security for their community. They should also have a program. And that program was developed by SAPS nationally. The launch of it was done in 2019. I stand to be corrected with dates right now. And there is a plan in place to say that we now need to launch the Community in Blue Patrollers, and they need to be equipped. They need to be partnered with SAPS in order to identify things that are about to spur so that we can start reacting positively towards how we move forward.
Do you believe that things have calmed down relatively as far as the writing is concerned? I mean, it caused untold damage, both in human resources and financial resources, and not even taking into account the trauma. How
Yes.
are the communities moving forward? What is it that, what sort of self-talk or support groups are in place to allow you guys to move forward?
Yeah. I think in terms of communities at large, and let us try and put things in perspective very, very quickly. I know we're short of time. But on both sides of the point, there was some damage that was done, right? One was at the back of a Zuma Free campaign, which is your freedom of expression and your rights and your constitution, all of that, which led to a problematic situation where some opportunists led it into looting and destruction in that way, right? So having freedom of expression is one thing, and that you can do, rightfully so. But on the back of it, you had a criminal element which went and incited this looting and this violence, which spoke to something very different from the Zuma Must Be Freed campaign. On the same token, in areas wherein you had respectable community leaders saying that we need to hold our fort, we need to barricade our areas, but we need to do these things within the ambits of the law. On that very same token, you had a few people that went out of hand and didn't listen to exactly what needed to be done in terms of protecting the area. And it became volatile and violent. So that led to the racial slurs and the tension that amongst communities, and it just so happened to be in specific different areas of the community. That's the part that we need to understand. But there is something much bigger that is in place that we now need to speak to say, how do we move forward as a democracy? I mean, the other day I had a meeting with school principals in terms of, I mean, in our schools at the moment, they are all races. And the point of view from the communities that are coming in, like from the likes of Cato Crest, 2 schools in the Indian areas, their parents were very worried that the children might be victimized when they came to the schools. And we had to now draw in platforms of engagement and discussion to say, no, that's not the thing. It's not going to happen. We ensure as community that children are children and they need to be safe. They have a right to education. So those platforms are being developed. And I was having a discussion with Lungelo the other day that there's a whole lot of people around our province at the moment doing different things, and maybe it needs to be constituted into one thing. And I stand to disagree. I'm saying everyone that has the capacity to do something to bring stability at the moment should be doing it. And no one should be territorial about what they need to do. SAPS needs to do what they need to do. The departments need to do what they need to do. The community safety structures need to do what they need to do. But everyone should be doing the same thing in terms of the concept of bringing stability and normalization.
Thank you indeed for your insights and your really hard work and your love for the upliftment of South Africa and our communities. Imtiaz Syed, chairperson of eThekwini, Secure, talking to us about the situation in that part of the country. It is exactly 9:01 and time for us to take the news headlines, and thereafter we will be talking with Nafisa Syed with financial updates.
Connect and stay ahead